Yo, what is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Lake Shore Digest. Coming at you on a Wednesday evening. The Lakers just took a deflating L to the Washington Wizards, 107-116. No Alex Caruso for this one. He was out with back spasms. The Wizards were coming off their best stretch of basketball this season. They were on an 8-game win streak before taking a loss to the Spurs in overtime. The Wizards, maybe 10th place in the inferior conference, but them playing their best basketball of the year, plus having a stable presence like Bradley Beal combined with a fiery one like Russell to keep the energy up, they were going to be a tough opponent for us. It was going to be a tough task, especially on the road. Because of all that, I had a bad feeling about this one coming into it. So Lakers end up losing that one, 107-116. We may have more overall talent than them, even with LeBron out, but our players are still learning how to play together optimally on offense, but especially on defense, I'd say, when Drummond and McElmore are in, because they're new to the system. But to make sense of it all, I got our buddy Alex here with me. He's been on before. He's holding down the Lake Shore representation in Oklahoma, and he's a great guy to talk Lakers with. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm pretty good. I'd be better if we'd won that damn game, but take the good with the bad. I think the last time I came on, we had one, and it was a little bit easier. I felt a little bit better about it, but because
I think the one you came on, it was the Bucks, and we just got whooped.
we got whooped. Oh, okay.
Yeah, but I think we weren't focusing too much on the game, so maybe that's
Yeah,
why
that was one. That was one I expected to lose. The
Yep.
Bucks are a good team.
I think LeBron played in that one, but AD had just gone down. But hey, we got that. We got one good win over the Bucks this year, and that was one of our best wins of the season, I'd say.
Yeah, man. So looking at this game, we got outworked. I mean,
We really did.
yeah, that's what it looks. What it would like if you watch the whole game. That what it would appear happened. Excuse me, I got tongue tied. But looking at the box score, we lost the rebounding battle, 50-41.
Mm-hmm.
Everything else, I mean, we had more assists than they did. We forced more turnovers, but there's no reason that oh god, looking at those DMPs, what Mark got a DMP and Wes Matthews.
I've just come to
There,
expect Mark to not play full
mm,
game. If he doesn't come in the beginning, he ain't coming back in.
that hurts my feelings, man.
It
He,
hurts mine too, but Frank has his reasons, I guess.
yeah, we have too many good players. That's something that I'm gonna touch on a little bit later. But
Mm-hmm.
a team with Andre Drummond and Anthony Davis playing the majority of the front court minutes should not get out rebounded. Unless the other team's got Wilt Chamberlain and David Robinson. But I it seemed like watching the game as if the expectation or our guys played with the expectation of AD and Drummond are in there. We're getting every rebound. It wasn't our guards didn't, give them any help. There wasn't I mean, we were leaking out. We weren't necessarily boxing out, trying to get that the game going in transition because we do struggle to score so much without LeBron. That it was, AD down there or well, one of the ADs down there trying to get the rebound over three or four Wizards, and
Yeah,
that's kind of how we wound up losing that rebounding battle. Uh,
that was
AD is becoming himself. I'm sorry, you can go ahead.
no. Actually, you go ahead. I want to hear
Okay.
what you have to say.
AD ended up with 26 and 5. I mean, he got a couple threes to drop in the fourth when we were trying to climb back in it.
Mm-hmm.
He's starting to appear like he started the game, with the very first play. He had a turnaround jumper, and I think I texted you now because I noticed the Wizards inbounded the ball, and um, Schroeder was doing his I'd guard 94 feet thing, and Russ just like he put his hand on Russ's back, and Russ just reached back and smacked his hand away. And I was like, okay, this is the kind of game that we're in for. Those guys are not going to finish this game.
It didn't end up turning to be very competitive between them two, at least.
Yeah,
We were both expecting fireworks, and in the previous pod, I was talking to my friend Nate, who is a big Westbrook and this year a big Wizards fan. We were expecting fireworks in this one, but man. I'm glad you brought up the rebounding thing because I wasn't really focusing on the rebounding too much, but I saw the numbers after the game. Yeah, we lose that decisively. And when you have Anthony Davis and Drummond, what I was more focused on was the fact that when AD and Drummond were in, we were just giving up points in the paint way too fucking easy. On top of that, the rebounds.
Yeah.
When Trez and Morris come in, which is our other alternative lineup for the bigs, I just roll my eyes because I'm like, are you sure you don't want to like roll with Mark a little bit at the 5, Trez at the 4? Frank has his reasons. We don't know what they are yet. One is that he could be saving that lineup for the playoffs. My buddy Phil, another guy on a previous pod, that's his theory that maybe Vogel is saving that Mark Trez front court for the playoffs. But if that is the case, I would like to see him get some minutes so they can develop a rhythm, because if you just throw that shit out raw, it might, lead to turnovers in the playoffs.
Right.
That's how I see it. But
I would definitely like to see that lineup get some minutes, man, because that's a cross match, right? Mark is going to play 4 on offense. He's going to float around the perimeter, presumably, and Trez is going to, but he's going to play 5 on defense because he's got the size to guard the opposing 5 that Trez doesn't have. And you want to make sure that everyone knows what they're doing when those 2 guys are on the floor. And I think part of the reason that Mark is collecting DMPs, and there was a little bit of chatter around the trade deadline about the Lakers being disappointed with him, is because our center rotation, even before we had Andre Drummond in there, was so different as far as what we had to do defensively. Like, the scheme changes how we defend the pick and roll from Mark to Trez to Drummond, and Drummond sort of being an amalgam of both of those guys, but the Lakers are playing him more in the way that they play Trez. I mean, Drummond goes out there, he hard hedges, he swipes at the ball, and then he recovers because he's athletic enough to show that hard and that high on a ball screen, and then get back and tag the roll man. But Mark, we want the Lakers play drop coverage, and I don't know if everybody listening follows Laker Film Room on Twitter. You should. If you don't, he went off on a little bit of a tangent a couple nights ago. It was a big 8 or 9 tweet thread after the Dallas game, where he discussed maybe Vogel is playing blitz coverage against Luka Doncic because there's a possibility that we could see him in the playoffs, and we just want to work on our blitz coverages with Drummond in there, because it worked, before the Mavs adjusted to it. And in the playoffs, you would expect to see a counter adjustment, to the Mavs' initial adjustment. And Pete's theory was, even if they adjust to it, we're going to keep at it because we need to drill this. We need to work on it. We need to get the reps in because we're not practicing as much with this crazy season being scrunched together and guys having to take COVID tests before they can practice. Us having 14 or 15 practices for the entire season with 10 games left in the season. But
I hate how little practice we've gotten, because shit, I wonder what our team would look like if we had more time, a little more practice to work on these things, man. But we'll never know. We got what we got.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
And now LeBron is looming. There are rumors that he could return as soon as Friday. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think it'll probably be that Sunday game.
I was thinking Sunday or maybe Monday against the. Was it Monday? It's Monday
Nuggets.
or Tuesday against the Nuggets.
So that's the Nuggets game on Monday is the second night of a back-to-back. That would make the most sense, because I don't think you want to play LeBron and then try to play him on a back-to-back immediately.
There was a headline today saying that they did want to get LeBron and AD to play back-to-backs. So really? I guess, yeah, they do want them. I can see it, just for the sake of getting them warmed up a little bit. Of course, do it at your discretion, because we don't want anything bad to happen. But, get as many games and game minutes in as possible. So, yeah, I saw a headline today saying that they will both be playing in back-to-backs as long as their bodies hold up.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
They'll have plenty of chances. We've got two in our final 10 games. We've got the Clippers and the Blazers on a back to back. That is hell. Um, and then the Knicks, who beat us
And
soundly
are
the
going to
last
play
time
their
they played
asses
us.
off. You already
Yeah,
know.
absolutely. And
And
the
then we got the
Rockets.
Rockets, too. That's a little softer game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, it it feels like in the final game. This was the final game of a road trip, and LeBron is looming. It sort of maybe we should have seen this sort of effort coming from those guys.
Mm-hmm.
But damn, I mean, the first half felt like, okay, this is a game that we're going to go on a big run. We're going to lock down on defense and we're going to take control and put this thing away at some point.
Yeah.
And then, just went ice cold. We went ice cold and the Wizards attacked. I mean, they attacked the paint. They play at a very high pace and they put a lot of pressure on the front of the basket, something you should probably expect with a Russell Westbrook led team.
Well, who was it? Who was the Rui Hachimura? Rui Hachimura
Mhm.
put a lot of pressure on his forearm on AD's nose. When you see that
Yeah.
dunk on Twitter, just keep that in context. That was an offensive foul, people.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Like some,
Doris Burke even said it. So I feel
yeah,
validated.
like AD had just a couple minutes before drawn up, like gotten called for a foul where Alex Len turned around and put his elbow right on his nose. And
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they called AD for that foul.
yeah, like how does that work? I got fouled Alex Len's elbow with his face, and then he gets dunked on. I mean, props to Hachimura. He's going to make Sports Center top 10. But he shoved his entire forearm across AD's face, and I was like, are the refs just determined to get our guy's nose broke and send him out for some more games?
Not only that, Trez just gets like smacked all the fucking time, and
Yeah,
you see him complain. And I mean, if you put yourself in the shoes of the ref, maybe you're less likely to give someone who's always complaining, a foul. You don't want to give them what they want if they're always just like attacking you. But
right.
they're doing it for a reason, is because he's getting smacked and you're not calling it enough. It happens all the time with Trez. And dude,
You
these
can,
last like 5 games or so, I mean, since we've been a championship level team, our bigs have it's always been shitty when it comes to officiating, because big men just have a lot more freedom of to just just get a little more foul-y in the post and stuff.
mm-hmm.
There's like a more of a gray line. But when it comes to guards, they blow the whistle quick as fuck, and that's just how the game is played these days.
Yeah,
But even with Dwight, he would get hacked. LeBron gets hacked when he goes inside. I mean, that's a big reason why he
yeah,
complains
man.
to the refs. It's because they're not calling it properly. You know,
LeBron, LeBron is the worst officiated superstar I've seen since Shaquille O'Neal. And
mhm.
if you followed the Lakers long enough and you saw Shaq just got mugged. Like prime Shaq when the Lakers three-peated, like he just you basically, if he caught the ball and he had 2 feet in the paint, you had to hug him, like tackle him, or he was going to go up and score and get the foul and be at the free throw line.
Yeah.
And the refs just gave the opposing players license to beat the shit out of him. And Shaq was pretty vocal about that. And LeBron, being such a big, strong guy who is in the paint so often and creating contact, I think he gets a lot of the same treatment. And Giannis complained about that last season too. About if you're a big, strong guy and you're playing basketball all day, you're not going to get any whistles because you're not falling down all the time.
I know. And to be fair, LeBron doesn't even flop like he did with the Heat.
Yeah.
When he was with the Heat, it was bad.
Oh yeah.
A few of those, Chris Bosh too, a few of the Heat guys were bad. But no, now, dude, most of the time when LeBron is complaining to a ref, it's justified. And LeBron's just fucking smart and understands every facet, every little corner of the game. So most of the time he's right. And it's so frustrating seeing the officials, just not consistently call that shit over and over. That play where Alex Len just like smacks the shit out of AD, they call the foul on AD. Yeah, dude, the refs were really pissing me off this game. They got really bad in the second. Got really bad in the second and third. I thought just that dunk on AD. I think the main thing that was just really kind of pissing me off about this game, though, was just us giving up all that in the paint. Because every time we had a little run, ultimately our shooting is what did us in. You know, we were 60% from the free throw line. We were 29% from three. The Wizards were shooting bad too, but we just kept giving up the paint. And I thought a front court with AD and Drummond do a little bit better job of protecting it. There were little moments where they did pretty good, but AD, he's still got to get his timing back. I'm kind of surprised that he doesn't have the same timing as before, because I thought, okay, he's hurt and he's going to spend a little time off from the game. I thought, timing was more of a mental thing, but no, it is very physical. You got to be in the rhythm of that game to know when to not jump on the up fake, because AD has been biting on a few of these pump fakes lately. Yeah, timing is a thing that he has been working on, and that's something that'll come around too. Just wondering, where would you say he would be at in terms of his return? Let's say 100% is, prime defensive player of the year that we saw last year. How would you say he is on both ends?
So I would say, given how he looked in this game, on offense, I think he's floating around 80% of the player that he needs to be. On defense, I think it's a little bit lower. I'd say 65 or 70%. Yeah, 60 or 65% even. Because AD on defense is a terror when he's himself. He's flying around disrupting everything. Just he's the closest thing to like the 2004 Kevin Garnett, where he was the Timberwolves defense, because he was responsible for so much. AD has some of that in his game when he's himself.
He really is the 2004 KD when he's healthy and locked in like that. Yeah.
And he's not that yet, but this team survived. We were still a top 4 defense with him out and LeBron out. It's encouraging that he's starting to come around on offense, but we're playing teams that have a bunch of bums in their front court, to be honest. I wanted to see in that Orlando game a sort of force him the ball and just let him beat these guys one-on-one because they can't guard him. And we tried some of that, but then it was like you said, the timing. Like, he doesn't have his handle completely back underneath him. Like, he tried the move from the triple threat where he drives to his right and then spins back to his left, and the help defender is going to come down and knock that or swipe at that ball during the spin, and he turned the ball over, I think, every time he did it against
There's
Orlando.
been a lot of turnovers lately with AD, huh?
Yeah, man. I want to talk about some of the personnel. Like, I would like to have your opinion. Where are you on Ben McLemore?
Bad defense.
Okay.
Streaky shooter. I mean, he's another guy that we got to get used to integrating him in the defensive game plan, because he's kind of we brought him in as shooting insurance for when a guy like KCP goes cold or Caruso, we can't hit a three. McLemore's going to come in. Ideally, you would like him to start hitting threes, go on a little streak. But when he does come in, he takes something off the table defensively. You'd see him lose his man a lot. But the fact that LeBron believes in him, I feel like that gives me comfort. So I feel like there will be moments where he comes up big in the playoffs. He signed a clutch, and before he was drafted, I think LeBron tweeted about him a bit. I've seen like old screenshotted tweets about this. LeBron having faith in dudes, gets me pretty comfortable about it. Although, to play devil's advocate, he did have faith in Shabazz Napier too. Remember that? So there's always that side of it. But
so you know who Ben McLemore is to me, and he's in my mind like almost like a 99% replica of this player. He is Cavs J.R. Smith. When he catches
he really
that ball,
is.
when he catches that ball behind the 3-point line, it's going up. Like, you don't even have to question it. It's going up. He took 16 shots tonight, scored 16 points.
I can't believe he took 16 shots. I did see that.
That is,
It's good to have a gunner like that because before we got him and we didn't have LeBron or AD, there were a lot of moments where guys were rotating it and everyone was kind of in a slump. So everyone was hesitant and no one wanted to shoot it. And then you end up just rotating it on the perimeter a ton, and then you just get like a heavily contested shot. McLemore says like, "Oh, there's 23 seconds on the clock yet? Fuck that. I'm shooting."
Up. If I see any daylight when I catch it, it's going up. So man, if you want the ball, you better get the rebound.
It's good and it's bad because when we were trying to come back in, I was texting him like, I told you we had a little run in us because the Lakers, when they go down like 15 or 20 and shit seems hopeless, they always seem to bring out a little like 10-point run where like the other team gets a little bit lazy, but the Lakers just lock down out of nowhere on D, get some transition points. Anyways, I think we cut it to like 10 or less than 10 with like a little less than 5 minutes to go. And then, we just had to make shots to keep it going. And McLemore just shot some threes over in the clock. And I'm like, all right, that's pretty much it. Yeah. So that's when Ben McLemore goes bad.
Yes.
But if he made those, would have been fucking amazing.
Yeah, man. We had it down to 9 with around 7 minutes left. And McLemore, like we had possession and McLemore came down and he saw daylight. He shot the damn thing. And that if he'd made it, it would have cut the lead to 6 with around 5 minutes go, which would have been, scary time for the Wizards that like the game might be slipping away.
Yep.
But it rimmed out on him. He shot out of his 16 field goal attempts, 12 were threes. I'm surprised 16 of those 16 weren't threes. But he got a dunk on a lob in transition, and that is something I think that he brings to this team that we did not have before he got here. There's a really pretty well-known sports like basketball writer that was watching the Orlando game and going, "Why is Ben McLemore playing over Wes Matthews?" And like Wes got another DMP tonight. Wes, the defense is solid, but he was one of those guys when when LeBron first went down, he was afraid to shoot. He didn't have any confidence in his jump shot. He didn't have any confidence in his ability to make a layup. Like we've seen Wes wide open catch the ball on a drop step and lay it in because I don't know if he's got the athletic ability to dunk anymore.
Very questionable if he does have the ability to rise up.
And McLemore is springy. Like I had never paid a whole lot attention to him in his career, even when we played the Rockets this summer. I don't know, or earlier this season. He looks a lot like Daniel House, so it was kind of easy to get those two confused.
Similar hair, right? I think they had similar hairstyle. Yeah.
Yeah, but if you type Ben McLemore into YouTube, you will see a bunch of him just getting really impressive dunks in the open court.
I honestly forgot he was a dunker, but you're right, man. Yeah. In those like early 2010s and like in college too.
Yeah, man. He's 28 now, and that's sort of the tail end of the athletic prime before you hit 30. He doesn't get as many dunks, but he still got it. And he finished a lob in transition with a dunk. How many of our guards can finish a lob in transition with a dunk like that?
Caruso, KCP could, but I don't know if I've ever seen him do it.
KCP is so weird.
West, no. THT can do it. Those long ass arms, I want to see him do it. Our guys can do it, but they just don't. They're never looking for that play. Ben is though, and so it's good to have a guy like that on the team.
Yeah, man, and that's why he's getting so many minutes and why his light is so green, especially in these games where LeBron's not playing. It'll be interesting to see where he is when LeBron is playing because it's like you said, LeBron believed in it, and LeBron believed in J.R. Smith, and I see so many similarities.
When you say LeBron believed in J.R. Smith, I just think of the image of LeBron just holding his hands up in disbelief that JR dribbled out the clock, and that doesn't give me comfort. But there were other times where that belief paid off for sure. When it comes to guys like McLemore and Drummond, I'm okay with them getting a lot of shots and minutes right now. because I think we've seen what a lot of other guys can do, and like Frank and the other people on the staff say, just stay ready because Frank will be cutthroat with these rotations come playoff time, and if he feels like this is the right matchup for you, then you're going to play the whole time. And if we need to adjust, we'll adjust. But he's pretty cutthroat with his playoff lineups.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm okay with guys like that getting a lot of minutes and shots. Let them get acquainted with the system. And most of these other guys have been playing together the majority of the year, so I'm cool with Drummond and and Mackmore getting that. I want to go talk about shooting. There's an interesting, kind of question floating around. A guy like Markieff Morris, who is in a bona fide slump right now, he shot really bad tonight. He was like 1 or 2 of like 10 or something like that.
1 for 7.
Looks like. One for 7. There you go. And let me just say, the rims were cruel to us tonight. Man, how many times did the ball just like circle out of the hoop? Like 5 times at least, I feel. Yeah, when a guy is that cold like Markieff, where are you in this? There's a school of thought that says, just shoot your way out of it. And there's other people that say, like, this guy should be benched. What are we doing? Where are you at when a guy's in a slump like that?
These are the best basketball players in the world in the NBA, and Markieff Morris has been, a week or a week and a half ago, we were like, this guy is awesome. We can't believe how well he's playing.
I know.
He's earned the right to shoot himself out of a slump. And this is normal, this sort of slump for him, because he was playing so well. He had a stretch of 2 or 3 weeks where he's playing so far above his head. This sort of coming back down to earth thing is to be expected. It doesn't help us win games, but really, where are those minutes going to go if it's not Markieff Morris? We've got so many injuries still. LeBron's out, and Frank early in the season was going to Dudley if he needed some shooting, some emergency shooting. He would give Dudley some run, and Dudley's out even.
Let me say, the Dudley is right where I want him right now. He's not playing. He's in street clothes. He's giving advice on the sidelines. Like, this is optimal Dudley right now. Anyways, keep going. Sorry, cut you off.
Yeah, but Markieff, I think this is a guy that's been around the league a long time. He plays mostly under control. On nights like tonight where he is struggling with his shot, I think he feels pressure to contribute in some way. And he had a couple bad passes that led to deflections, but I think he's earned the right to get himself back, because he's one of those guys that's going to be on the floor when the playoffs come around. Vogel there's more AD at the 5, during in our playoff rotation, and it's going to be LeBron out there with either Kuzma or Markieff Morris. And there was a lot of Markieff last season. And last season, he was a late addition. He came over via buyout. He didn't fully know the system, but Vogel still trusted him. And Markieff, he gives you that level of, I'm not taking no shit either when he's on the court. There was a play tonight where Russ got an and one, and it was a play where Russ went up for a layup and he missed, and he complained to the referee going up the court, and Markieff was waiting on him to set a back pick, and Russ wasn't moving very fast. Like, he was just sort of walking backwards up the court talking to the ref, and then he hits Markieff's pick and he throws his arms up in the air like, oh, I just got hit again, ref. Did you see this? Like,
master instigator, professional instigator.
That's the sort of player he is, and Vogel likes that. Vogel likes nasty dudes on his rosters. But I wanted to talk about Drummond. Have you seen Drummond's stat line for this game?
I think he did all right. Like, didn't he get a decent amount of rebounds and a decent amount of points? But, dude, he was just letting anyone score on him tonight.
Right. So before Andre Drummond was a Laker, he had um, this reputation as being an empty calories kind of guy. Like, you will read the box score at the end of the game and go, "This guy's a monster," but his team will have lost the game, and it will be, largely his fault because of his lack of effort on defense, or perceived lack of effort. Some of the perception was correct. So Andre Drummond played 20 minutes tonight. He scored 17 points and grabbed 11 rebounds and went 8 for 12 from the field. Now, if you were to ratchet that up to like to 36 minutes, if Drummond had played 36 minutes in this game, that's like 25 and 18.
Yeah. Even
And
more of a monstrosity, yeah.
this guy looks, he is a box score monster. But there
This
were
might have been an
miscues.
empty calories game, yeah.
Yeah, that's it's like I said to you the other day, we might be approaching his ceiling on a contending team, and that's going to affect, um, I think, the sort of contracts that he's offered this offseason. He's going to have to play the basketball of his life when LeBron comes back. It's not, he's going to have to be, it's going to be real impact and not just numbers in the box score, or else he could end up, staying with us on a smaller deal than a lot of people think that he'll be able to get, just because the sort of teams that are going to have cap space this summer are teams looking to make the leap, not teams like us that are established and have the pieces in place and are just looking to fill out. And Drummond, I mean, Detroit hovered around that sort of, we just need a couple more pieces, when they bought Blake Griffin in, and they ended up trading Drummond to Cleveland for a remote with no batteries. and and Cleveland, he was the best player there, or at least 1B next to Kevin Love, who missed a lot of time, obviously, with his injuries, and that team didn't go anywhere. So I think some of these teams with cap space are going to be looking at Drummond like, we're not going to be trying to buy you out of a max contract in 2 years, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
So he needs to play like the basketball of his life when LeBron's here, when LeBron gets back. There were a couple plays tonight where this guy, he's pretty well known for his struggles around basket. He, like, the ESPN commentary team was surprised when he missed some layups, and I was like, that's kind of what he does. Don't worry about it.
It's
But
always
there
fun
were,
seeing the commentary team react to things like that that
yeah,
that we see every other day when the Lakers play.
yeah. Well, he's a big athletic guy who, you know, can finish with authority when he has a mind to. So watching him miss layups, if you don't watch the team on a regular basis, or you don't cover Andre Drummond, in the however many years he's been in the league, that's kind of shocking.
He
But
had some good finishes, though. I just want to say, I think
yeah,
tonight his finishes were much better than in the Mavs series. My goodness.
did you see the one in the I think the end of the first quarter where he caught it directly underneath the rim, and he went up, like, straight up, and then changed and swapped it over to his right hand and scooped it up off the backboard, like
That was wild. AD just did that 2 games ago, and
like
Drummond did that shit. Yeah. I was like, I didn't know he had that in his back.
6'11", 280, bro. Like, that's not something you associate with a guy that big. I he makes a couple of those plays every game where you go, who the hell is this guy that the Lakers got on a minimum deal after he was bought out of a max contract at 27 years of age? He's such a strange player.
He just has this range of amazing shit like that, and then fucking like JaVale McGee stupid shit like that. And the pendulum is always rocking from one side to the other really fast, and there's not a lot of in between. So it's really like one possession he'll do some great shit, and then the other it's like, why are you letting a much smaller guy just like beat you up right now? But I still think he's got hell potential, man. And it's going to be dicey, keeping him next year. That's a whole separate conversation that we
Oh
could
yeah,
have another day. But I still feel very high on the potential of him, especially next to AD. It's gonna take time and just on court reps together for them to really gel. And we got 10 games left, so we're gonna see what the hell that shit turns into, man. But I'm still
Yeah.
pretty high on Drummond.
I'm not you during the Lakers game. Um, Even the smart people in Lakers Twitter tend to get on Drummond's case, and I'm not one of those people. I think he can do a lot for us, but it's situational.
Yep.
You don't want to be leaning on him to carry your offense, which it's like you said, LeBron's out, he's going to get a lot of shots. Ben McLemore's going to get a lot of shots. It's THT is going to take a lot of shots, which he only had 7 tonight. That's a little bit of fewer than I would expect. Oh my God, KCP shot the ball 4 times.
Yeah.
Played 34 minutes.
With THT, I think teams are getting really hip to packing the paint with him because I was noticing in that Mavs series, he was driving and he would try and he'd penetrate, but he would try and do a little like old man pickup game move, and there was just all of a sudden 3 guys at his back with his hands up.
Yeah,
So I think teams are getting really hip to his drives. There was this one lineup that we did on our run that I thought the spacing was really good. Let me see. I gotta go back through my notes. It was Schroeder, McLemore, KCP, Kuz, and AD. The spacing was excellent. They were getting like good fucking like rolls to the rim and shit. And that was the lineup that led to our little like fourth quarter mini comeback and shit. That was when AD started hitting his shots. So I like that lineup. I would trust McLemore in a lineup like that. You got Schroeder, who could be the handler, and McLemore, he will be like the no conscious gunner. KCP, he'll shoot it if he's hot, and same with Kuz, he can space the floor decently too. I saw that lineup and I kind of liked it. Yeah, that was a good one.
So that lineup, that's 5 guys that could potentially shoot the 3. That's also Kuz had the playmaking chops going tonight. I think he had like 8 assists.
Oh shit, really? I totally missed that.
Let me look that up. Well, I'm just speculating. I had it in my hand, and
you're right. 8 assists, 11, 8, and 7. Jesus, Kuz almost had the triple double.
Yeah, man. So there's a lot going on with that lineup. A lot of Schroeder's the primary ball handler, but Kuz has some secondary ball handling, and so does AD, and so does McLemore. And McLemore and Kuz are particularly really strong cutters.
Yeah.
I would like to see that lineup maybe. Oh, geez. Maybe you trade, you slide McLemore down and you trade KCP out for LeBron.
Right. Yeah. Because or Dennis for LeBron.
Yeah.
You got a big ass lineup too.
Yeah, man. Because, yeah, that would work because KCP can guard both guard positions as long as one of the other guards isn't Damian Lillard or Steph Curry. But that's going to be. I would be interested in seeing that lineup going forward with shooting and cutting and passing. I think I wouldn't be surprised. Frank Vogel's a really smart guy, despite what a portion of Lakers Twitter thinks.
Frank Vogel's smarter than 99.9% of us.
Yes,
he's a coach who's been in the league for a long time, and he's seen and had to deal with in-game situations that determine the fate of his future and the people around him's future. So I still got a lot of faith in the guy.
And I think he made a note of what he saw out there, and I think he's
I think he did too. I think he did too.
Yeah, exactly what we're talking about is something that he saw and that he's probably talking about with his assistants right now.
Mm-hmm. You were talking about Drummond being situational. On the other hand, Trez is also very situational too. But Vogel has been giving him all the reps this season. He's really letting Trez play a lot. And part of me wonders if because he knows the playoffs are going to get situational, part of me wonders if he's just letting Trez have all his minutes now because it's about to get pretty inconsistent in the playoffs.
Yeah, man. So I mean, once the playoff picture sort of shakes out a little bit more, sort of takes form, we'll know exactly who we're up against and what kind of what we can expect. You know,
Mhm.
the argument, well, something I had been keeping in the back of my mind as far as potentially playing Trez in the playoffs is that some of those matchups that he struggled with when he was on the Clippers last year are gone. Jamal Murray is gone. I mean, that dude tore his ACL. Speedy recovery, but a speedy recovery for him is training camp next year.
Mhm.
James Harden and that Rockets team is no more. Maybe I don't know. I could see if we played like the Suns in the first round, there could be a problem with CP3 putting Trez in the pick and roll, or
You know he'll hunt that.
yeah. And we put so many resources into our front court rotation, and our best lineup is still AD at the five, and LeBron out there with another swing guy like
Shooters and
Kuzma,
cutters.
or Markieff Morris. I feel bad for those dudes, man. I think if we ended up with Denver in the first round, in theory, I mean Trez got smoked by Jokic last year in that matchup, and the Clippers ultimately were eliminated by the Nuggets. Part of that was game planning. Doc tried to play a drop coverage with Trez the same way he did with Zubats, and Trez drop coverages are not his thing. He doesn't have the size to contest that pull up mid range or the floater that Jamal Murray has right in his pocket, and he doesn't have the size to bother Jokic if he catches the ball closer to the basket.
Doesn't have
Uh,
the length. He's
yeah,
got kind of short arms, but I mean, he's just a big old ball of muscle.
yeah, man.
That's how he
He
gets
was
those shots.
Yeah, and we saw that tonight. He was knocking the hell out of Alex Len. Like he was going through Alex Len the way
Bro, he was
and
busting
then
Alex Len and Robin
and
Lopez.
Robin
Like, this
Lopez.
is this is a good Trez game because he's like busting guys that are like 7 feet legit.
Yeah, it reminded me of I don't know, that trainer that got famous on NBA Twitter a couple years ago, and he was working with Brandon Ingram, and he would have the guy shoot a layup over pool noodles.
I remember that guy.
Yeah, just whack him with some pool noodles on the way. Like Trez was going through the Wizards front court like they were pool noodles, but
Yeah, man.
that's probably not something we're going to see, but we'll know more once we get a little bit closer. I still think, even as great as Porter Jr. is playing, I still think Denver is fool's gold without Jamal Murray.
I think so too. I think having Porter playing so much better lately, he just dropped like 28 and something, like 28 and 8, I think. It'll make life harder, but I still don't think they're gonna be going anywhere. Yeah, if we're healthy and we get him in the first round, I'm not that worried about that.
Yeah,
It'll I'm sure Jokic will do some amazing things. I'm sure he'll have some like big games, but I have full confidence in our ability to take care of him.
I I want to see some Mark if we draw that Denver matchup.
Oh yeah, that's a
I
Mark
want to
match.
see some Marcus Hall.
I want to see the big cerebral pale guys go at each other. I want to see Mark versus Jokic. That's what I need to see. But that's why we got Mark for matchups like Jokic and Nurkic. We got him for like the big old dudes that can like really throw their weight around like that.
Hmm.
And it's good that we have the rotation that we do. I wonder if he's because he's said some quotes in the media that can be interpreted either way, good or bad. I wonder if he's really happy and understands the situation right now or whatnot. What are your thoughts on that?
I think he's probably. I think whatever he says at the time is probably true. I mean, he had
He
the
is a very honest guy.
yeah, he had the big game where he played well. I don't remember who he played, and he came out and he was like, I've thought about it. I'm 100% committed to this team, and that was just a couple games before that. Um, he was sort of like, oh, I don't know, and now I think he's frustrated that he's collecting DMPs. I think that he's a really cerebral guy, like you said. I think he's looking he's watching the games and seeing mistakes and seeing areas where he could help the team, and he's just not in the rotation. I mean, we have too many good players. This is a real thing that is happening that is happening to us right now. Like
Mhm.
I've seen calls for Vogel to, pare the rotation down to 8 or 9. It's like, bro, the two guys that got DMPs tonight, aside from LeBron being hurt and Caruso being hurt, were our offseason additions, our big offseason signings. Wes Matthews and Mark Gasol got DMPs. Those two guys are capable of contributing, particularly on defense, and we know that. But we have so much else in front of them that, I mean, what are we gonna do? Give them one 6 minute shift? You know, take another player out of a rhythm and you know put one of those guys in, but not long enough for them to get into a rhythm. It's a real challenge trying to juggle all these guys. And Frank says the right thing. He always praises Mark's professionalism, regardless of whether the quote that he gave sounds professional or not, regardless of whether he even gave a quote. I think the last time I was on, Mark got a DNP and then he refused to speak to the media afterwards. But Vogel is always there with his praise, and he's always saying, "Well, stay ready. Your number might be called." And Mark, to his credit, when he comes in after Drummond comes, after the Drummond edition, he has played well. But I think he's frustrated right now. He definitely sounds frustrated to me.
Understands the situation, but is frustrated. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a situation that a lot of us deal with in our own lives. Just like, just think about like, I don't know, a work situation. Like, oh, we can't pay you more because we don't have the money. But it's like, ah, shit, maybe I'll look for another job.
Right.
No. It's a relatable situation. But if the right matchup comes, I think Frank will be calling Mark's number, man. One thing I want to wrap on. I think the big sentiment right now is when LeBron gets back, will he fix everything? And people are falling on one side of the aisle or the other. Want to hear your thoughts on it before we wrap up?
I hope that our guys don't play like they expect LeBron to fix everything. I think LeBron is going to take um, the remain. If he comes back with 7, 8 games left in the season, I think he won't be himself for those first 7 or 8 games.
Going to take a
Uh,
lot of long threes.
yeah, yeah. I think he's going to need some rounding back into form, just like AD. Even though these are this is the most games he's missed in a single season. We have to remember this season is compacted. We're playing more games in a shorter period of time. I don't. I'm hoping that there's less ring rust and that LeBron can come in and be 80% of himself. But
One of the Twitter doctors, Evan Jeffries, he was saying that LeBron's injury is different than AD's because AD's was more of a muscle injury. So
mhm,
ramp up is more important for AD's injury. Bron's was a joint injury. So the muscles are less to worry. We have to worry less about the ramp up with the muscles. I think he's probably been able to train a little bit better and keep his muscles warm. But getting back in the game, it's different. I think he's gonna need some time to adjust, like you said.
yeah, man. And that's like if you've been keeping up with sort of the reporting around the team, LeBron and AD are telling Schroeder, "Hey, even when LeBron's back, you need to be the guy that you have been for these last eight to
Hmm.
ten games."
That could be more true. Yeah.
Yeah, that Dennis Schroeder. I mean, he looks more valuable every single game. There's a big section of Lakers Twitter that is offended that he rejected our contract offers. I think he bet on himself, and I don't know what the market's going to look like for him this summer. I mean, that's an entirely different discussion, but I think he's certainly cemented himself as the third most valuable player on our roster.
He did that when he went down with COVID protocols
Mm,
and we didn't have AD. Remember? that he certified himself as the third most important then, and that was even before he's come along as a facilitator and a floor general, like we've seen in these recent games, man. But yeah, you're really into Dennis Schroeder. You're on Dennis Schroeder Island. You got a lot of stock in him.
Oh
So
yeah,
so
that's my.
let's
I
acknowledge
love
that. Yeah.
part of that is he plays um a lot like I played when I was in high school. Like
Hmm.
he's I think I'm a pretty nice guy, but anything goes on the basketball court. The only fist fights I've ever been in were on the basketball court, you know. And I admire the way Schroeder play, and he's not afraid of the big moment. You know, I saw that even watching. I had a pretty a pretty small but an existent rooting interest in the OKC Thunder and Houston Rockets series last year because I don't know. I don't guess I've ever mentioned this on this podcast. I hate James Harden. He's one of
I'm
like
with you.
it doesn't take it takes a whole lot for me to hate a basketball player. I think in the history, like in my NBA fandom, I've only ever hated Manu Ginobili and James Harden, and they are similar players.
Ginobili, huh? I don't have
Yeah.
hate for Ginobili, but
Oh,
that's interesting.
Ginobili got Kobe suspended, I think, um, because there was one season where it was after Shaq and Kobe was the man. It was I don't think it was 2006. It might have been where we were playing the Spurs and Ginobili would run underneath a shooter, and he liked to do it to Kobe particularly. It was
You mean
I
put a
think
foot underneath?
like he would get as close to the shooter's landing spot as possible. Dennis now Bruce Bowen was the guy that would put a foot underneath, but Ginobili would like try to get directly underneath you so you would land on him and get an offensive foul. That was that was his game. There was a game where Kobe went up and shot a three in the corner, and Ginobili does his Ginobili shit and tries to land underneath him, and Kobe swings his left arm down and just whacks Ginobili right across the nose and knocks him down.
Oh, I
Like,
love that.
yeah, that was
Made it
that
look
was
like
I
an
think
accident.
that was post Shaq and pre Powell and Bynum because Kobe was having to take up for himself. Like he was his own enforcer on those teams.
Yeah, he really was.
And Kobe, like they called it a flagrant two, and Kobe got suspended for a game.
Oh man,
But
was Ginobili
Harden.
selling it?
So I sort of branched off into, you know, the things that I think about in the NBA. But my point, Harden is oh jeez, did I lose it? No, I was rooting for the Thunder and that series against the Rockets last year because I want to see James Harden crash and burn.
Mm-hmm. I was
And
too.
Dennis Schroeder played really well. He closed all those games last year, and they took the Rockets to 7. And it was him and SGA and Chris Paul all on the floor at the same time. And Schroeder
And Lou Dort
was
too. It came
yeah
down to a Lou Dort three.
yeah oh man
That was wild.
yeah
He
that's
almost
a
fucking made
dude
it too.
that's a dude that got away from the Lakers
He
scouting
went
staff.
undrafted, man. Yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I think he's gonna be a hell of a player. Like if he's not a star, he's gonna be a productive role player for a long time.
One
But
of the first writing jobs I had with Last Word on Sports, I was doing draft profiles and doing one on draft guys that didn't get drafted. So
yeah,
I did Lou Dort, and so I just like coincidentally did it. So I like got to know his game there, and he went to my rival school, ASU. So I went to University of Arizona. But since I graduated, I kind of stopped caring about the rivalry, to be honest.
yeah,
But yeah, that was like my connection. I just like seeing Lou Dort kind of succeed like that, and I
that's
also like seeing James Harden crash and burn.
yeah, that's dope that you got to write about him because you look like a genius because he's a hell of a player
People are
and he
gonna
looks
search
like
him up like
a
20
complete
years
steal.
from now, like who was writing about him back then? Oh, geez, this guy. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Um, but yeah, I was watching. I watched every game of that playoff series, and Dennis closed those games. And
Mhm.
a lot of times, he wasn't. He was getting switched on to Harden, and he was competing hard. I mean, CP3 is the exact same. That guy, even though James had, 5 inches and 40 pounds on him, is not going to back down from anybody. And I feel like in a playoff series, we'll be able to trust Dennis down the stretch, and he'll win over that portion of Lakers fans that are angry with him about the contract situation.
I think so too. I think I'm adding Dennis to the guys. Of course, we needed to see it happen in the playoffs, but I'm going to include our old guys of Caruso, KCP, Kuz, LeBron, AD. The guys who won it with us last year. I
Right.
think we can trust Dennis. I mean, he's been given the responsibility right now, and we've seen what kind of a dog he is. I'd add him to the guys that I trust in the playoffs. Now, let's see if Harold and if Mark, we should be able to trust him, but in our system, given whatever Frank does with his lineup decisions and rotations, it's all kind of situational with the rest of the guys. Let's see if they can deliver big for us in the playoffs, man. But yeah, that last question we were talking about, how do we think LeBron will fix everything? I'm kind of in the same mood as you. I think he's going to fix a lot just because this team is built around him. And, AD is built around him too. In a sense, he's the perfect complement to him. But that's what the role player is built around him too. But I don't think it'll fix everything. It'll fix a lot, but not everything. To do that, I still think we just need more time, more reps for guys. And when Frank starts taking his rotations seriously, I think we're going to look pretty good. So
Yeah.
I can't stress out totally yet until we get LeBron back. And even then, he's going to be using these 8 games as like feel out games. They might still be some frustrating ass games. Although if our place in the standing starts to slip, maybe we'll see him go a little bit God mode right there.
Yeah. I feel like this team's attitude is, as long as we miss the play-in tournament, it doesn't really matter. I know there's a lot of people who are concerned about us falling far enough to meet the Clippers in the first round. I don't give a shit, honestly. Like, we're gonna
I'm
have to
okay
beat
with the
them at
Clippers
some
in the
point.
first round too. Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna have to beat them at some point. So I would like, ideally for us to have as many games as possible, um, to get guys to get in a rhythm so that we're playing our best basketball by the time we meet them, because they do have a good team, and they've got. I don't worry at all about Paul George, but I do about Rajon Rondo in the playoffs.
I do too. I'm with you on that. Just because we saw playoff Rondo, we saw how he adapts in a playoff series and how he can help people. But
Yeah.
playoff Paul George, still not scared by him.
Nope.
Playoff Kawhi can kind of go either way.
Yeah.
Playoff Rondo though, and he not only that, he knows our scheme and shit.
Yes.
He played with us last year. He knows how Frank thinks, how LeBron thinks in the
Yeah.
huddle.
Rondo and Dennis
That's a
Schroeder is going to be a
that's
lot
a
of fun.
Rondo and Schroeder. Oh my god, dude, I just love anytime Schroeder gets matched up with another fiery point guard. Thought we were going to get that with the Wizards game tonight, but we were getting our ass kicked too much for it to really turn into anything.
Yeah.
I want to say though, I hate it when fucking. I was talking about this with Beak, our producer homie, before. I just hate it when teams that aren't really going anywhere, just they're Russell's doing all his strutting and shit. But I hate when guys
Uh,
really celebrate beating a weakened version of us that still doesn't have all the pieces together yet. That shit just makes my blood boil, man. Seeing Russ all like walking around yelling and shit.
yeah, man. We've Russ is that kind of guy. Like, I love him off the court. He does so many great things
I
for
do too. I love him when
for
he's not playing the
yeah,
Lakers.
whatever whatever city Russ has been in, he has been a positive force in that community. However, on the court, he is a complete pain in the ass. Um,
Yep.
he When we eliminated the Rockets from the playoffs last season, I think it was the series clincher, and we might have been up like 25, like close to 30, and the Houston's got the ball, and Russ is trying to get the inbounds, and LeBron is guarding him, and he's telling LeBron, "Y'all better bring that double." And LeBron is like, "What?"
He
like,
laughs.
yeah,
He
like,
laughs at
"No, I don't give a damn. You better bring that double." Like,
this.
why? Everything we've been doing up until this point, where we're up 3-1 in the series clincher, has been working, and we're up 3-1 and 25 points late in the game has been working. What are you talking? Like, LeBron just had this look on his face, like, "Oh, Russ."
That was a great moment. I remember that too.
Like he's that. You want him to be having a bad time when you're playing against him. You
That's
don't want
that's
him.
well put because he was having a great time tonight and it was pissing
Yeah,
me off. Russ was just like he was happy that Alex Len was getting dunks on us. With the crowd not being there as much, we hear the talk on the court. I love it. But
yes.
we could very clearly hear Russ go like, "Let's fucking go" to Alex Len when he got like a big dunk. I'm like, "Shut the fuck up, Russ." God damn it. Got so pissed at that, man. You just hear all that shit talking, dude. But this has been really fun, man. We've hit that hour mark. It's been really great just talking Lakers, talk about this game, and we'll be having you back on soon for sure, man.
Absolutely. I'd love to come back. It's a good time.
Always a good time, man, especially because of your knowledge about the salary cap and stuff. So we'll definitely be doing some off-season predictions and stuff having to do with the financials like that for sure.
Yeah, man. My prediction is stress.
Yeah,
That is,
yeah. My prediction is stress too, but in terms of on-court, I think we're gonna get.
yeah.
I'm personally about to get really stressed once playoff time comes around, and we're going to be a team that's still figuring each other out. Thankfully, a lot of other teams are either hurt or still figuring themselves out too. The only
Right.
other team that really ain't is probably the Clippers and the Suns in the West.
Right.
The Jazz just got hurt. They just lost Mitchell. I think he might come back sooner than expected, but those two teams with the continuity, the Suns and the Clippers, who haven't been really decimated by injuries, keep my eye out on them. But yeah, should probably wrap this up, man. Great talking as always. Be having me back on soon.
All right. Thanks.
All right, take it easy.